Hello. Today we're gonna build a squat stand in the half rack style. This design was inspired by DIY Duke. His video will be in the description below. Oh, jeez. So go check him out. For the dimensions, it is going to be two 90-inch vertical beams, four 27-inch diagonal supports, cut at 45 degrees on both ends, two 21-inch front supports, two 27-inch back supports, and then two 41-inch middle beams to hold everything together. The rack itself is going to be made out of 5 pressure-treated 4x4x8 foots, and that's according to these dimensions. If you are to make these bits longer or customize it to your own dimensions, you probably need more than 5 4x4s. In addition to the wood, you're also going to need 24 nail plates, or whatever you want to use to hold the pieces of wood together, a box of screws, and some type of 1 1/4 inch bit. I'd recommend the speed bore as opposed to an augering bit because this is more expensive. Supplies for the contraption that the bar will rest on are going to include 2 3 1/4 inch floor flanges, 2 3 1/4 inch close nipples, 2 3 1/4 inch couplings or unions, 2 3 1/4 inch by 4 1/2 inch pipe nipple, and then 2 3 1/4 inch pipe tees. Now for this tee here, you can also use a 3 1/4 inch pipe cap. I just settled on a tee though because it'll be easier to unscrew and it'll give you more torque to make it tighter. Also needed are eye protection, lung protection, hearing protection, a tape measure, some sort of drilly, the more powerful the easier, and some type of saw, the easiest being a miter saw. Just use whatever your budget will allow you to use. For the cuts with the dimensions previously shown, 2 of your 4x4s are going to be 90 inches each. 2 of them are going to be 41 inches, 27 inches, and 27 inches. This is going to be your center beam. These are going to be your diagonal supports. And then your final 4x4 is going to be 21 inches, 21 inches, 27 inches, and 27 inches for your 2 front supports and your 2 back supports. Now these dimensions are made mainly for me, a 5'7" skin-coated water balloon. So if you happen to be a giraffe, you might want to make these taller. Or if you're a pygmy marmoset, a little shorter wouldn't hurt. And then if you want to get a 6th 4x4, you can. And making your rear supports a tad longer wouldn't hurt either. Now if you want to be uber precise with it when you're doing your cuts, butts, and coconuts, make sure you account for the thickness of your saw blade. Now if you don't have a miter saw to get 45-degree cuts, or you don't know how to measure 45 degrees, you have a few options which you can use. You can roughly set the stand up. On the ground's probably the easiest. And you can get your diagonal supports and sort of eyeball estimate where it's supposed to be and draw the line from underneath. And that'll probably give you more accurate results based on your exact dimensions of the wood. Or if you want pretty exact 45 degrees, you can use this thing, which is called a speed square. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna find the pivot point. It's in the corner, and you're gonna rest it on the edge of the board, making sure the very corner of the board is flush with the pivot. And you'll use the degree scale to rotate around that pivot point to 45 degrees until the line of 45 is parallel with the board. And then on the outer edge, you'll draw your line, and that's your 45-degree angle. When you are finished cutting, you should have something that looks like this. Now when you're drilling your holes through your 4x4 for your pipes to fit through and screw on, and your bar to rest on, you've got a few options. If a 20-volt drill like this is all you have, you can use it. However, you will need multiple batteries, and be warned that the drill itself will get hot, so you will need to let it cool down. You will also need to go slow, take off bits at a time, or else it'll jam. And whatever max torque setting your drill has, that's what you want to use. Since I don't have a $300 high levels of gumption drill, I'm just going to use this drill press. If you are to use a drill press, probably your safer-ish options are going to be a thick drill bit, a thick spade bit, or a long enough Forstner bit. Now, considering I don't have either of those, I'm gonna use this. The thing about these type of bits in a drill press that you need to be extremely careful of is this part right here. Since it is shaped like a screw, this bit is going to be self-digging, which means as this enters the wood, the spirals are going to catch and aid in the boring of a hole. So when doing this, it's essential to make sure your chuck is torqued down nice and tight, your press is set to the lowest RPM, your piece is clamped down nice and tight, and you drill nice and slow with a firm grasp on the handles, because you will feel a slight tug coming from the bit. You will also find that drill presses only have a certain range, so your bit probably won't go through the entire 4x4. You can either flip the board over, or you can start the bit in the same hole, which, if done correctly, can work, but still probably isn't the safest thing. When you figure out however high you want your holes to be, that's solely based on you, take your bar device, stick the top edge at the base of where you want your bar to sit, and then draw a rough line at the bottom of the pipe. Or you can measure it, then from there you can find the middle, and that is where you want to drill your hole. If you drill a hole where you put the mark at for the bar, the tube is going to sit slightly higher, and your bar will be higher. Make sure you actually drill your holes in the front, because the bar holders go in from the front. Now, in order to make your bar holder, you're going to take your floor flange, and all these pieces again are 3 1/4 inch. You're going to take your close nipple, and just screw it in there. You're going to take your coupling, and then you'll take your 4 1/2 inch nipple, and just tighten everything down. And of course, you'll just make 2 of them. And then you can stick this at whatever height you want, and take whatever end piece you decide to use and screw it onto the back. You can also squeeze Loctite onto this connection, and this connection if you so choose, or use your muscles to crank it down. Just make sure you don't put anything on this end, because this needs to be taken off and put back on. Now, if you don't have anything else you want to add, these diagonals at 27 inches are just perfect. However, if you happen to have some random safety arms laying around, those are going to need to be shorter. Okie dokie, artichoke. Step 1, find whatever height you desire. Step 2, measure. Step 3, recut. Oh yeah! Step 4, measure again. About 5/8. So a 5/8 hole is pretty snug for both the thingy and the other thingy. So I think I'm going to go with 3/4 instead, to make up for the fact that I'm not very accurate. Also, here's the measurements I found for this one. Now I've got 2 sets of holes for 2 different heights on the safety bars. In order to get through the entire board with this Forstner bit, what I'm planning on doing is using this longer drill bit, going through the entire board. I'll have a center hole at the back here. I can flip the board and center this bit on said hole and go through that way as well as that way. Boom, holes. Since this part of the safety arm does not fit in between a 4x4, instead of bending this or cutting it and bend it, I'm just gonna cut this entire goober off, and I'll drill a hole in the middle as well as the board, and then I'll stick a bolt through it. And the bolt through the center should be doing the same job as essentially this, if not more. I think though, I don't know, I'm no engineer. Oh, I love making holes. Also, I'm just using a general purpose titanium drill bit to drill through this about 3/8 inch plate. So both boards aren't exactly straight, and that's causing the bottom hole to not be in line. Bigger hole it is! Whoops. Oh! As far as nail plate positioning is going to go, we will put one on the bottom of each joint here, on the top of each joint, on this diagonal on both sides, as well as this face on both sides as well for the vertical beams. Okay, center mark. Your 21 inch long piece is going to go in the front. 27 in the back, and they'll attach to your 41. And you don't have to fill this entire thing up with screws. You'll also notice I'm putting these screws in, these edge ones, at an angle slightly, so that way there's less of a chance that it goes. Make sure you also put one on the other side, otherwise it's going to be floppy like a fish. Cool. These corners may pop up a little and that can be youchy. So just take your whacker and show them who's boss. So we'll stick a plate here, here, there, here, whoops, here, and on the other side too. One thing that's uber helpful is drilling set screws there and one down there. So that way you're not fidgeting with stuff when you're putting your nail plates on. Depending on what screws you want to use, some will have enough bite to get through 2 sheets of these nail plates. But if not, like the ones that I have, they can always just drill a hole through the middle. Hey! Now one thing you want to be careful of is these little shaving doodads. If you're not careful, you'll get a boo-boo! I forgot about these 4. I was going to stick these in the corner like so before I did the diagonals. I'll just try to get it from the side. There it is! One other thing I did was add a bazillion screws in the back. Because if I were to use my non-existent engineering degree, then I would imagine a lot of the pressure would be from this pulling on the back, especially if weights dropped on the safety arms. Now these guys are just going to rest in any hole of your choosing, and then your cap goes in the back. Lastly, due to the nail plates being at the bottom, you may experience small wibbly wobblies. While this is not a huge issue, if the stand rocking to the motion of the ocean kind of annoys you, you can go ahead and take some of these gripping pads and fix them to the base of the stand. And this should help eliminate the wibblement. And if you need to bail, the safety arms will catch it. And you won't die. But this should be nice and sturdy. Yes. So now that this is complete, the only thing left to do is make some weights. Plates of power. And then we can start working out and building some muscle. Weights will be in the next video. Woohoo! Oh, jeez.